Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things, in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Last week, we had the absolute honor of chatting with one of our kindness heroes, Lizzie Velasquez, and we had a really awesome conversation. We talked a lot about media and how we can use media to tell our stories, but also the importance of sort of like feeling empowered to share our stories in the way that we want to share them and not necessarily in the way that other people want to share them. And we just had so many thoughts on that. We thought we'd do a mini episode on that, on specifically the importance of sharing we talked about sharing our story before, but we want to talk today specifically about the way in which we share our stories and how we can feel empowered to share our stories on our own terms.
Yes, I read a quote the other day, and I might butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, we don't have control over our story, but we have control over how we tell our story, if that makes any sense. So, we don't have any control, really, what happens to us in this world, but we do have control of the way we tell that story. And I think that's so empowering. There's nothing more empowering than saying, tell your story in your own words.
Definitely. I think as communication students, as people that are studying things like journalism and storytelling, it is so important to make sure that we are not, I want to say, injecting ourselves into other people's stories in the sense of, not trying to twist narratives to reach certain goals.
Absolutely.
You know?
We have seen this with our story. When we first got onto social media promoting the podcast, it's really our whole motivation for joining TikTok as Courageously Kind was to promote the podcast.
Definitely.
We started to gain traction beyond the podcast.
Yeah.
And as we started to gain a little bit more attention, some more views, follows, we started to get really interesting phone calls from major networks.
Yeah.
And I won't say any names.
Because I don't know if we can be sued or not, but
I never signed anything. Anyway.
So true.
No hate to anybody.
Yeah.
But we were getting phone calls from big networks that was really exciting. Oh my gosh, this network wants to talk about me.
Yeah.
They want to learn about my story.
Yeah.
And then as you talk more and more with these producers, I feel like the truth kind of slips out.
Yes, definitely.
They start to ask more questions of well, were you bullied as a kid? What kind of things would people say to you? Were you sad? How was your childhood?
What were surgeries like?
What was that like? Were you scared? Were you sad?
And can I just
say...
Do
you have friends?
Yeah. Can I just say, as an interviewer, and this is not to put myself on a pedestal, but I would never ask those kind of questions. Those are questions that are invasive and they're really digging for something, and you're digging around in people's potential trauma and pain and past, potentially negative experiences. I feel like it's so unethical to ask that to me.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I'd never ask anybody that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't pertain to, well, the truth kind of seeps out of sometimes media companies want a very dramatic story because that will get views.
Yeah.
And so if you come into an interview and say, I had a great childhood, I had a family that loves me, friends that accept me.
Yeah.
I'm good, I have a happy life. So say, okay, goodbye.
Okay,
and hang up the phone.
And ghost you.
Yes.
Yeah. Or straight up say, okay, well, you know what I mean? We'll get back to you and never get back to you. Yeah. Yeah. We've also, like, gotten messages and stuff from, like, shows and networks that want to specifically talk about, like, medical things. And if, you know, no hate to anybody who goes on to those shows and does that thing. Like, I totally understand that. And it is a life-changing, you know, potentially life-changing opportunity for sure. It's also, like, private, personal medical information.
Yeah.
Would you want to share your private, personal medical information with a major TV network?
But it's hard if so many people do it because that major network is on the phone with them.
Yeah.
And they want to get them airtime.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't tell them no.
Yeah.
I can't, you know.
I can't turn down an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't, you know, blacklist myself or anything like that.
Yeah.
And what we've seen is that saying no to those types of things is okay.
Absolutely. And that there will be positive opportunities. You know what I mean? We have been really lucky and really fortunate to have been in contact with and worked with reporters and journalists that really made sure to tell our story in a kind and respectful way.
Absolutely. And this can translate into anybody's life.
Totally.
Telling your own story, expressing yourself, living the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
Rather than the life that other people want you to live.
Yes.
Or how other people want you to present to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying true to yourself.
Yes.
And true to your story. And not let anyone define you. Not let... you know, that I think is one of the points that we want to drive home, and that was really the point of Lizzie's TED Talk, was that how do you define yourself? You get to define who you are.
Yes.
And it can be really easy to let other people in and to define that for you and to put you in boxes and categories and roles, you know? Like, so often we see media painting people as victims or as, you know, really vulnerable or that sort of thing. And like you said, it gets attention, it gets views, but you don't have to subscribe to other people's, you know, idea or definition of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that might be a great way to wrap up this little mini-sode. Is, Maddie, how would you define yourself today?
Oh my God, what a loaded question. I think I'm always growing. You know, I just saw a really a beautiful quote, and I'm gonna, again, like you said, I'm gonna butcher it probably, but it was something about how we don't necessarily receive our lives as like this whole big painted picture or like this whole, you know, thing. We pick up the little pieces along the way.
Yeah.
And we find little pieces of ourselves and what defines us.
Yes.
I hope that I will say that, like, I define myself as someone who is trying to be better all the time. And I fail at it sometimes, but I strive to always try to be better.
Yeah.
What about you, Liz? How would you define yourself today?
Ooh, I think I feel kind of like a traveler today. Of just like, I am experiencing everything for the first time. And my only job is to experience it and enjoy it, the parts that are enjoyable, and to learn from the parts that are not enjoyable.
I love that. Absolutely love that, for sure. So that's our question that we want to pose to you today. How do you define yourself? And it's okay not to know. I feel like my definition and my perception of myself is always changing. Do you feel that way too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think that's the beautiful thing about life, is that we are constantly changing, but at the end of the day, I think it's so important to find our own worth and our worthiness and our perception of ourselves from within ourselves.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. Y'all, if you haven't listened to our episode with Lizzie yet, please go do so now or later or soon, because we absolutely loved chatting with her, and she, again, is such a kindness hero to us and someone that we really, really admire and look up to. You know, just the way that she has shared her story and the impact that her story has made, but also the way in which she conducts herself with such kindness and such grace is so, so beautiful and so admirable and inspiring to us. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. We'll link it in the description below. And have a great week, everybody.
Yes, we'll see you back here
Real soon. Bye.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Annawalt's Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Annawalt's is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Annawalt's Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.